Today we're making napkins. I'm going to show you how to do a traditional dinner napkin with a mitered corner that's straight stitched at the sewing machine. Look at this lovely fabric. It's another SevenBerry. The first thing I did is pre-treat it. So I finished the 2 raw edges and just washed and dried it like I plan to from here on out, because napkins do get washed a lot. And now I'm just going to even up my edge, and I'll put a little link to the video on how to pull a thread, which is what I'm getting ready to do here. So I started here and pulled my first thread, but it went up into this and off, so I came down just a little bit farther. You can barely see that's where the thread is missing, and that's the thread I'm going to cut on, and I'm doing that all the way across, and that just gives me a perfect grain line for my first napkin. So if I start with the perfect grain line and measure, they should all be pretty perfect. And you can pull a thread across for every row if you want to. I'm working on the back side because it's just easier to see. Sometimes it's easier on the front. Here you can easily see it where the pattern changes. I'm going to start by just pulling my line and trimming this up. And I'm also going to cut off the selvage edge here, so that's getting ready to go away on just one side, because I'm going to always work from one side across. So I'm cutting 19-inch squares, which gives me a 1/2 inch all the way around to roll over for my napkin. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to be cutting side by side, 19-inch squares all the way down, and I know I can get at least 10 napkins from what I bought. I may be able to get more. So you can see my threads that I've been pulling. Here's my cut edge, my straight edge, and here's the edge where I've trimmed off my selvage. So this is now what it looks like. And I'm working on the back side just because it's nice and dark and easy to see. And I'm going to start marking my squares. You can see my little markings in red all the way across. And I've also marked my 19-inch, this here, and there's one more up there. So now I'm just going to take my nice long ruler, line it up, and draw my lines both directions so I can cut. Alright, and here you can see the lines that I've marked. I like a good line. Just makes life easier when you're cutting out. You can see how square they look. Here's the other side. So this is all that's going to be left on that end. So I'm just going to continue down my fabric doing that and cut out my squares. Here's our napkin. Before we've done anything, we've pre-shrunk it, and I've showed you how I cut them out. And now we're going to start pressing it up, and I've already started. Here's my 1/4 inch. I'm going to press up 1/4 inch 2 times. I have a 1/2 inch allowed for my seam allowance. So I'm going to do the same thing on this corner, and you can use your ruler if you want to. You can even draw your lines on, whatever makes it easy for you. And once you've done a few, you probably can start eyeballing it pretty easily, but we're going to press up our 1/4 inch. Most of this project is going to be done at the ironing board. Linen makes a great napkin too. This sort of has a linen looking texture, but it is a cotton. So once we've pressed, this is my first round of ironing, and then we're going to come back and do it one more time. But before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and unfold this now. And you can see, and I know it's a little hard with this fabric, but you can see where my 2 folds, see where my 2 folds went together? And this little point, I want to cut off this corner straight across here. And if you need to, you can come in with chalk or a pencil or whatever you need to do to see it, to make it easy for you to cut it off. Now I can see this fine in person, but on the camera it may be a little hard to see. So I'm going to mark it with this chalk. That's where they come together at a point. Can you see that? And now I'm going to cut that off right there. See my little point? And we're going to just trim straight across that little corner off. All right, so once we've done that, so now we're going to fold in this corner a 1/2 inch on the bias, so that when I iron these 2 corners together and iron one more time, they automatically make a miter. So I'm going to go ahead and press that in so you can see it. So here's my 2 that are at the 1/4 inch, and we're going to do this for every single napkin. So I'm doing 10 napkins. I'm going to start by just ironing this down. And now, and that's done on the bias. So when I iron up both of these sides, I like a good steam. You can already see it starting to try and make a miter, and then we're going to iron it up one more time. Do one side at a time to make it easier for you to see. There's one side. And now this side's going to fold up. And we have a mitered corner. We'll just keep pressing it back. And now that's ready to go to the sewing machine and get stitched. And I will just put a pin in all my corners. Because it's pre-ironed, I don't have to worry about it too much. But all of these little corners, I'm going to put a pin across like that so you can see. That's the corner where it's going to get stitched. Here's another one I have prepped, the next corner, so I'm going to just iron towards it. All right, there's that side. And now we're going to do this side. So I'm just pinning every corner to hold it down. And now it's ready to go to the sewing machine. So I'm going to just sit here and iron. I iron all of them first, and then I head to the sewing machine and stitch them. And I am going to stitch in this sort of wheat color all the way around, top and bottom. And it's a cotton thread, so it's actually, the weight is appropriate and goes really well with this cotton, a little bit heavier woven. All right, we're at the sewing machine. I've got it set up for just a plain straight stitch. I have my 1/4 inch foot on here because it just makes everything easier with a 1/4 inch foot. All right, and I'm not starting in a corner. I always like to kind of start in the middle and cross my stitches. So I'm actually, because I have my thread matches the wheat part, I'm going to start in my pattern where there's more of that color. So when I cross my stitches, I'm crossing on a color that sort of matches it. And we're just going to start sewing. I'm using my even feed foot back here. So as I come to my corner, I'm going to take out my pin, but I hang on to it. And sink my needle. And then I just lift the presser foot, rotate it around, and now you can see the stitching. See how pretty that looks? That's the right side. That's the wrong side. Very attractive. All right, we're going to get a nice corner here. And pull out my pin. Sink the needle. Rotate it around. Keep going. And there's our pretty little corner.